khuya sao đêm lấp lánh, tiếng hát ai vang động cây rừng. Phải chăng em cô gái mở đường, không thấy mặt người chỉ nghe tiếng hát. Ôi những cô con gái đang ngày đêm ở đường. Ôi em bao nhiêu tuổi mà sức em phi thường. Em đi lên rừng.
When I was small, like 2 or 3 years old, my grandfather often played this poignant and inspirational song for me, The Girls Who Opened the Road, and plenty of other songs of the same genre, rap music, or the Vietnamese revolutionary music. I often listened to them while my grandpa was feeding me baby powder. Without these songs being played, I wouldn't eat. Since then, rap music has become a part of my unconscious memory. I couldn't remember the names of songs or who wrote them, but sometimes familiar melodies just stuck in my head. Actually, this is the correct version of the song, which was on our VCD player all the time.
Tiếng nói mơ hồ trong tim ngời sáng, như sao mai lấp lánh dõi núi rừng, soi cho em tiếp chặng đường theo những anh hùng đổ cuống yêu thương. Ôi con đường mới anh hùng.
This more vibrant version was performed by the legendary Vũ Dậu. I just can't distinguish between Vũ Dậu and Bich Lien's voices. The soprano voice you heard at the start of this short documentary was Bich Lien's. I randomly opened Bich Lien's version about 2 years ago on YouTube, and it felt like in the deepest corner of my soul was a button and someone clicked on it. I just couldn't stop listening to this song. So I've dived deeper into the songwriter's biography, his writing technique, and the historical context of the song. This decision decided a large part of my current PhD thesis about education under the communist regime. Let us talk about the song itself. It was written in 1966 by Xuan Giao, who also wrote this familiar piece to all the kids born in the 60s and the 70s.
Đêm qua em mơ gặp bác Hồ, râu bạc cài tóc bác bạc phơ. Em âu yếm hôn lên má bác, em vui múa là em vui hát. Bác mỉm cười bác khen em ngoan, bác gật đầu bác khen em ngoan.
What is notable about Xuan Zao's writing technique is that he worked directly in the field, met actual people and witnesses actual events to gather materials for his works and be inspired by the reality of the revolution. In the case of The Girls Who Opened the Road, Xuan Giao went to Vĩnh Linh, Quảng Bình, a province in the central Vietnam that was also one of the fiercest battlefields at the time, to meet young volunteers, most of whom were women at their 20s. They all devoted their lives to the war against the American empire, and more broadly, to the communist future. The very metaphysical framework that shaped this belief in the egalitarian future will be discussed later. Now let us look at some specific details of the song. Its opening lines set a vivid scene. Walking under the night sky, stars twinkling, a song echoes through the forest trees. Could it be you, the girl who opens the road? Can't see your face, only hear your song. These words reflect the perspective of a soldier marching through the night, guided by the clear, resonant voice of a young woman. Despite the darkness, her song lightens the soldier's heart, embodying the spirit of those who work tirelessly for their country's freedom. What is special about this girl is that she has no specific name. She doesn't reveal any other details of her identity either. She can be anyone. She remains faceless to represent all the faceless people out there who selflessly sacrificed their young ages to the revolution. Of course, each person taking part in this war had their own lives, struggles, pains, and glories. Art should have spoken for the uniqueness, the extraordinary, the hard-to-express aspect of individuals. Why did the personal remain faceless in art? An easy explanation will point at the suppression of individuality during wartime when collective victory must have been more important than individual fate, which is actually correct. However, by looking at party philosophy behind ways of making art in this era, I hope to transcend the normal understanding of individuality that we currently have. During the 60s and 70s in Vietnam, it was evident that a person's way of life must be aligned with the collective political orientation of gaining independence and actualizing communism. The is, or factual reality, and the art, or ethical ideals, will merge. Songwriters, poets, storytellers hence functioned in two different realities, the cognitive reality and the ethical reality. They used materials collected from real life to craft a new life, inevitably leaning towards the egalitarian future. One could be critical of the harsh reality of war and revolution. What the party wanted them to think about was a solution to overcome this hardship, a total victory ahead. 2 years after The Girls Who Opened the Road was released, the tragic incident at the Dong Loc junction took place. At noon on 24th of July 1968, an American bomb fell very close to the mouth of the tunnel where the 10 volunteer girls were hiding, killing them all. The song resonated with the tragedy. The song brought to life a world in which the young age of the 10 girls became eternal. And more than that, it reminded the people an eternal law of historical progress, where the triumph of the weak was inevitable. The Trường Sơn Road, with young group volunteering day and night to open roads under bombs and bullets, attracted many other writers and artists, colleagues of Xuan Giao, who come for inspiration to compose for the revolutionary cause. Here are some other pieces on the same theme.
Ôi non xanh nước biếc luôn luôn dìu chân tôi bước tiếp khi cùng lắm gian nguy không khi mà quê hương giấc mơ
vượt đèo ngang nào bạn ơi, tay lái ta dồn lên lời ca hỡi cô gái trên đất lam hồng, mỗi dặm sẽ qua lòng em không thấu tỏ, dù sẽ anh chạy đêm chạy ngày cùng chẳng bằng tình nghĩa em, vì miền Nam bao yêu thương đi thông đường để những chuyến xe qua. Chào em gái thiên phương ơi, em gái thiên phương về gần nhé giữa Sài Gòn. Chào em gái thiên phương ơi, em gái thiên phương hẹn gặp nhé giữa Sài Gòn.
The title of this song is literally Glory to Those Who Look Forward, which covers the whole spirit of socialist realism. This literally an artistic movement gives reality a political orientation. You can't be in pain and misery caused by the oppressors, and you want to overthrow them. The question is, what will happen after the revolution? Socialist realism gives us a clear answer: socialism, and then, in a hopefully not so distant future, communism. Before we move on, I just want to say that Vietnam has the first man in space in 1980. His name is Phạm Tuân. After the Soyuz 37 mission with Soviet astronaut Viktor Gorbachev, Phạm Tuân became the first Asian ever in space. Anyways, this is a totally different story that I'm going to tell you in a future video. Let us focus on socialist realism, okay? Do you recognize this melody?
Đào ra hoa cành theo gió đưa vầng trăng thả ngoài dòng sông ngoài sương trắng buông lững lờ từ bên sông thoáng bóng anh trên màn sương mờ cất cao lời ca làm sông có cây bên bờ.
Xuan Giao was a very famous song in Soviet Russia during World War II. This one is a Vietnamese adaptation performed by two big names of Vietnamese rap music, Mỹ Bình and Trung Kiên. The influences of Soviet culture and arts on Vietnamese revolutionary music is indeed self-evident, as Socialist Realism was given birth in the Soviet Union. According to Vietnamese literary critic Trần Đình Sử, the first one who poses the term Socialist Realism was Ivan Gronsky, a Soviet journalist and a close figure beside Stalin. He poses this term in 1932 after a private meeting with Stalin. Later, he announces the term as a political orientation for literary composition. In May 1932, he was appointed chairman of the organizing committee of the Soviet Writers' Union. It's another story, but like many other Soviet intellectuals, Gronsky was sent to Gulag in 1938 because of being accused of being a Trotskyist, and he actually survived. Let us jump to 1934 when there were more established efforts to ground this term in a richer philosophical basis. Andrei Zhdanovs was the first one who viewed socialist realism as a manifestation of Marxist historical materialism in Soviet literature. In a speech titled Soviet Literature, the Richest in Ideas, he said, "Comrade Stalin has called our writers engineers of human souls. What does it mean? What duties does the title confer upon you? In the first place, it means knowing life so as to be able to depict it truthfully in works of art, not to depict it in a dead scholastic way, not simply as an objective reality, but to depict reality in its revolutionary development. In addition to this, the trustfulness and historical concreteness of the artistic portrayal should be combined with the ideological remolding and education of the toiling people in the spirit of socialism. This method in beautiful letters and literary criticism is what we call the method of socialist realism. In short, as Trần Đình Sử explained, socialist realism is a true, concrete historical description of reality in its revolutionary development. What is it supposed to mean? Still too complicated? What is revolutionary development? To understand this, we must dive deeper into the most general metaphysics of Soviet state building and more broadly, Soviet world building, historical materialism. This is a Leninist interpretation of historical materialism which is taught in all Vietnamese civic education and philosophy curricula. This is another loophole which I can explain in a more comprehensive fashion in my future video. I can guarantee this because I'm doing a PhD project about socialist education. Basically, the idea is that human history goes through 5 stages of development: primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, and communism. In each stage of development, there are opposite camps of people with contradictory benefits and imbalanced political powers. The conflicts of these camps roll the wheel of history. This is, of course, a dumbed-down version of the theory, and I will give you some references from Lenin in case you want to dive deeper into this topic. For example, under capitalism, we have the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. In Marx's grand narrative, the bourgeoisie, the owners of the means of production, exploit the proletariat in order to actualize all their modern infrastructure, scientific development. The proletariat, as the most progressive class in history, will roll the wheel of history by overthrowing the bourgeoisie, collectivizing the means of production, and taking advantage of the bourgeois science and culture to build communism, which is a higher stage of human history. Sort of. Russia before the Communist Revolution in 1917 was still feudalistic. Therefore, Lenin proposed a transitional period to bridge between feudalism and socialism, the first stage of communism. In the period, the capitalist market was kept, but under the state's regulation. It was seen to help Soviet Russia build its modern infrastructure like in other capitalist countries without going through full capitalism. This would be the basis for a future socialism building career. So, the role of writers was not just to depict reality as what it is, but to ground this reality in a grand scheme of things. Maxim Gorky, also in the same Congress in 1934, delivered a speech called Soviet literature. Here, Gorky distinguished between critical realism and socialist realism. Critical realism, prevalent before the revolution, focuses on highlighting the flaws and contradictions of bourgeois society, but often lack a constructive vision for the future. In contrast, socialist realism is proactive and constructive, aiming to educate and inspire the masses towards socialist ideals. This focuses on the development of socialist individuality through collective labor and the fight against remnants of the past. The Writers' Union was tasked with organizing and guiding literary efforts to ensure they align with socialist principles. This included fostering a collective sense of responsibility among writers and promoting the unity of creative efforts toward the common goal of socialist construction. Gorky stresses the importance of literature in shaping the moral and intellectual development of the proletariat, encouraging writers to portray the positive aspects of socialist life and the heroism of labor. Socialist realism serves as an educational purpose, aiming to elevate the cultural and intellectual level of the working masses. It seeks to transform individuals by aligning their personal growth with the collective progress of society. In the 1930s and the 1940s, Marxism-Leninism was on its way to be the winning doctrines of the Vietnamese Revolution. In this era, the idea of socialist realism was exported from the Soviet Union to Vietnam. The Vietnamese literature curriculum often depicts Tô Hữu, the state poet, as the godfather of Vietnamese socialist realism. He indeed wrote impactful poems like this one, mourning the death of Stalin in 1933. Stalin, yêu biết Mỹ, nghe con tập nói, tiếng con thơ gọi Stalin, mồm con thơm sữa xinh xinh, như con chim của hòa bình trắng trong. This is 100% cringe, I know. But anyway, let's come back to how socialist realism became the leading doctrines of Vietnamese literature. Not Tô Hữu, but Trường Chinh was the most important figure that helped bring socialist realism to Vietnam. Trường Chinh was a think tank of the Communist Party who determined the direction of the communist movement, particularly in the anti-French colonialism movement. He was the Secretary General of the Indochina Communist Party in 1941. After the Declaration of Independence in September 1945, Trường Chinh played an important role in shaping the politics of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam and creating the socialist structures of New Vietnam. 2 years after being elected as the Secretary General, Trường Chinh drafted the outline of Vietnamese culture, the short document seen by many as maybe the most important work that defined the character of mainstream communism in Vietnam, claimed that one of the roles of the new Vietnamese literature was to make socialist realism a winning doctrine. In 1948, in his famous speech, Marxism and the Vietnamese Culture, Trường Chinh said, "In our era, the revolutionary culture is the socialist realist culture."
Khi hát lên tiếng ca gửi về người yêu quê ta, ta hát tiếng gió mưa thét gào cuộn dâng phong ba. Em ơi nghe chăng lời trái tim vọng ra, rung trong không gian mặt biển sôi ầm vang, qua núi biếc chập trùng xa xa.
I want to begin my criticism of socialist realism by talking about a love song, which title is literally love song. This one is from songwriter Hoàng Việt, performed by Kiều Hưng. Love song, in my perspective, is the greatest piece of the whole rap music genre. The fact that it's not entirely socialist realist is what makes this song so special. Here, Hoàng Việt didn't just describe the reality of a divided nation during war times and reduce this into a linear narrative of a collective whole heading into an inevitable future. He wrote the song based on his individual experience of being a husband who had been far away from his wife and family for years. Hoàng Việt was from South Vietnam. During the 1940s, under the pen name of Lê Trực, he wrote romantic music. After the Vietnamese Revolution, Lê Trực was viewed as a reactionary songwriter because of its romantic tendency in art making. Hoàng Việt was captured in 1949 and was sent for re-education. He later joined the revolutionary side. At the end of the First Indochina War in 1954, Hoàng Việt went to Hanoi, left behind his wife and 3 kids. After 3 years with no contact, in 1957, Hoàng Việt received a letter from his wife in the South. This letter became an inspiration for the songwriter to compose love song from midnight to the next morning. After its publication, the song was performed by Quốc Hương and quickly became a hit. This is a recording of love song by Quốc Hương.
Khi đã nghe tiếng ca của lòng người yêu phương xa, em ấy ngước mắt lên vui nhìn trời xanh quê ta, chim răng răng bay ngoài nắng xuân đẹp thay, tan cơn phong ba lòng đất yên rồi đây, em ấy nở nụ cười tươi xinh như cánh hoa xuân trào riêng anh, nói nhau ngàn lời qua đôi mắt xanh.
Unfortunately, the song was criticized for its description of personal weakness and tragedy. Lưu Hữu Phước, another famous songwriter at the time, advised Hoàng Việt to modify it to emphasize its propaganda nature. However, North Vietnamese cultural leaders decided to ban it, at least until 1967. 1967 was also the year of Hoàng Viet's death. He was killed during an American bombardment. Many art critics and scholars within and outside of the Soviet world have criticized socialist realism as only propaganda, not arts. Vietnamese critics, after abandoning socialist realism as a philosophical guideline for art making, claim that socialist realism has accomplished its historical mission in 1986 after the 6th Congress of the Communist Party. Indeed, Nguyễn Văn Linh, the party's Secretary General, who was also one of the main architects of Vietnam's economic renovation called Đổi Mới, didn't mention socialist realism as one of the party's grounding theories. The main problem with socialist realism is that, according to a textbook from the Faculty of Literature at Vietnam National University, it promotes historical progression in a very dogmatic way. Its optimism towards the country's journey to the end of history is so cruel in a way that it opts out actual human experience. The guiding theory of the revolution, historical materialism, has become more real and practical than the practice itself. Here, we need to look at the limitation of historical materialism, which is the philosophical basis of socialist realism. In contrast to what Marx and Engels claimed, that it is an anti-idealist theory, it is just a new form of idealism. Communism here is treated as an absolute truth of future history instead of a vaguely articulated future speculation. Therefore, the everyday experience of the people was replaced by imagination. A new political imaginary was built up based on an imagination. I want to end this documentary by introducing Alexei Yuchak's idea that socialist realism and many other forms of human expression in the Soviet world after Stalin as a Soviet hegemony of form. In the debate surrounding the term vulgar Marxism began in the 1950s, the idea that infrastructural changes can directly lead to superstructural changes was under attack. Stalin criticized Marx in a particular idea that language is a part of the superstructure. He said language stood outside of the base superstructure dialectic. Soviet citizens, therefore, must use a kind of pure language that signifies reality correctly. The reality here, of course, was not without a political orientation. Stalin's point introduced to the Soviet world a new ideological language. In order not to be sent to Gulag, people were allowed to express themselves only within this ideological language. Later, this language only existed as form. People used a standardized language to refer to a non-standardized reality. I guess great pieces of rap music, though composed based on this standardized language, still have the power to speak for diverse personal realities. My question is there a place for Hoàng Viet's honesty?
không thở than. Người dân dưới ruộng lên ngàn tìm lúa đâu bao mồ hôi, gánh về từng hạt lúa vàng cùng nhau chung sống con thù giết cây. Em đi cất lúa trên ngàn hoàn thành chiến đấu xa tràng, con chiến nhất quyết thành công, con chiến nhất quyết thành công, mai ngày kháng chiến thành công. Anh về em thỏa ước mong.